Hi, my name's Tracy and I'm founder and trustee of Ending Life's Taboo. I'm really pleased that St Helena Hospice have asked me to be part of their Dying Matters Awareness Week this year. The theme this year is Are You and Your Loved Ones in a Good Place to Die? I think a lot of people think about the place that they're going to die as being the physical place, whether it be hospital, home or hospice. But I'd really like to ask people to think about, are they emotionally, mentally in the right place to die? I want to share with you Ross's journey. It's our family and our son's journey at his end of life before he died. In June 2015 he was diagnosed with a benign Spitz-Nevis mole. He was 25, and although he was under the hospital and he was seen every 3 months, unfortunately, in November 16, he had his birthday at the beginning of November, so he was just turned 27. He found himself in a lot of pain in his abdomen and his back, and one evening he went home and he collapsed from the pain. His partner, James, came home and found him collapsed and took him through to accident and emergency. When he got there, because he was 27 and presenting with abdominal pain, they thought it was probably gallbladder or appendicitis. So they kept him in overnight and they were going to scan him the next day. When the next day came, I had a phone call at work, and he said to me, "Mum, I can't receive my results unless you're here because I need my next of kin with me." And I think when you hear that, you know it's really not going to be good news. So I left work and I went and joined him, and they did give us his results, and his results were that they had scanned him and he had cancer in 4 places. So he had it in his stomach lining, his stomach aorta, his lymph system and also his liver. At this point they didn't know what type of cancer it was. So he then had a biopsy and it did come back that it was malignant melanoma, skin cancer, and we're pretty sure that this was from what they thought was a Spitz-Nevis. It was a malignant melanoma just disguising itself as a benign mole. From then on, Ross's journey got extremely difficult for him. He couldn't cope with what was happening to him. He couldn't cope with the thought that his life was going to end, and he didn't really talk to us that much. He did want counselling, and he was put on a waiting list, but unfortunately for him, his body didn't have time to wait for him to get up to the top of that waiting list, and he died 8 weeks after diagnosis. He never wanted to be alone after he was diagnosed, and so we had friends, family, all on a rota basis being with him every minute of the day and night. He just could not cope with it. So as it progressed, he then got taken into hospital on the 23rd of December, and he was in extreme pain, and whatever they seemed to do, they couldn't get his pain under control, and that was no disrespect to anybody that worked with Ross. Afterwards, it was explained to me that Dame Cicely Saunders, who founded the hospice movement, she identified that some people do experience total pain, and the total pain is not just the physical pain, which I'm sure they had under control, it's the emotional pain as well. So he was angry, he was in denial, he was scared, and it just caused him so much pain. And so whatever the palliative care team, Dr Hattie or anyone did for him, it just didn't relieve the pain. I think that if he had have had that counselling at that opportunity, that window of opportunity where he wanted to talk to somebody, it would have helped him no end. By the time that he was getting to the point of dying, and those last few weeks in hospital, he had shut down. He didn't want to engage with anybody about what was happening to him. So if a doctor, nurse, consultant went in to talk to him about his diagnosis, his prognosis, he would just completely and utterly shut down, and everything had to come through me. And I just want sometimes for people to realise that even though it may be happening to your relative, sometimes those decisions come down to you because that person cannot and does not want to make those decisions. And I think in a lot of ways around dying, we don't seem to accept it as easily as they used to. We've got so much medical intervention, medical research, all of those things that help us to live longer, and I think there's an expectation that we won't die for some, so therefore they just cannot accept death and dying, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think these conversations need to be had before you're in that situation. Yeah, so these conversations need to be had earlier, but however with Ross we didn't have that chance, and so all the decisions were through me, which made it really, really difficult. And I think sometimes if he had had that counselling, he would have been able to accept things a lot easier. And there is no rapid access to counselling in the hospital environment. The hospice have counsellors attached to them. If you're at home, you can get access to a counsellor. However, you may be like Ross, put on a waiting list, and it depends how long you have. But in the hospital, there wasn't anything for him, and he was in there the last 4 weeks. And I think sometimes when somebody goes to hospital when they're terminally ill, they sometimes don't come out. They may wish to be somewhere else, they may wish to be in the hospice or wish to be at home, but sometimes that isn't possible, and for Ross it wasn't possible. He needed the care and support of those that were looking after him on the ward, and he had tremendous care, really good care. So the idea of Ending Life's Taboo is to have a counsellor in the hospital to talk to these young adults. I'm aiming at young adults because they are at a particular psychological development where they're starting to make their intimate relationships, they're starting to find their lifelong partners, they are having young families, and so at that moment in time when you're young, you're not thinking that your life is going to come to an end. And so therefore I think rapid access to counselling is really important for that age group, to help them work through some of their fears and things that they've lost, because they will be grieving before they die. We that are left behind grieve, but somebody who's dying will be grieving for the things that they thought they were going to have. And so yeah, Ending Life's Taboo has come about because of Ross, and in his name, Ross Saxton Davies, we'll remember him by putting this in place and getting counselling for people in hospital when they need it. I'm really thankful to St Helena Hospice that they are working in partnership with us, and we do also have the support of Macmillan at the hospital too, so that's really important for us, and yeah, thank you.
So my name is Dr Hattie Roebuck, and I'm a consultant in palliative medicine at Colchester Hospital and St Helena Hospice. And I know Tracy because she is the mother of one of my patients, but we are also working together on quite an exciting project at the moment. But I thought maybe I would say a little bit about how Tracy and I know each other to begin with. So Tracy, I remember Ross really clearly. I enjoyed the time I spent talking to Ross. He was really quite a charismatic person who was a lot of fun to be with. But I also remember that Ross came into hospital over Christmas. And the first time I met him was when I was on call on Christmas Eve. And he was really ill. And he was in hospital for about a month after that admission. And unfortunately, no matter what we did, we couldn't get Ross's health better, and he continued to get worse. And then he died at the end of that month, which I think was really hard. And I think because Ross's cancer progressed so aggressively, it didn't really give him the chance to come to terms with what was happening. And I think because of the way his body was, he felt a bit out of control at times, which was hard. And I know that since that time, you've been tirelessly campaigning to raise money to pay for a counsellor who would focus on the needs of young people with terminal illness. And I absolutely agree with you that that's what we need. You've started a charity called Ending Life's Taboo, and I think this is such an important role that I've agreed to be trustee on your charity to try and make this work. I think when anyone dies, it's really sad. Young or old, we lose them at that point and we can't talk to them anymore. But when a young person is told that they have a terminal condition and they're going to die early, I think it is harder. And that's because it always feels to me that there's a feeling of why? Why did this happen to them? It feels very unfair. And for that young person, I think they have an awful lot of loss to deal with. So up until the point where they realise that they're unwell, most people take their health for granted, so they lose and have to grieve for their good health. And then there's all the kind of expectations they had of their future life and the dreams that they had that they then have to let go of. And finally, and I think this is something I see quite a bit, is young people realise that because they're ill, that makes the people around them, who they love, unhappy because they're worrying about them. So I think it is really difficult for a young person, and that's why I think we need this post. We bring some new expertise in to help someone deal with all of that. And we're doing this film about ending life's taboo and the work we're hopefully going to achieve together, but also because it's Dying Matters Week. And that's about being in a place to die. And I suppose what I'm hoping that our counsellor might achieve is getting young people into the emotional place that they want to be by the time they do face the end and they die. And that would be really wonderful, and I think really testament to you, Tracy, to bring something good out of something that was really, I think, very difficult at the time. So thank you.
Thank you.